All right, we're going to get started. Welcome to week 3 of the Improving Your Photography Through an Understanding of Composition course. Again, I want to apologize for those of you that were looking for the recording earlier. There were some technical difficulties, but we managed to straighten it out and re-recorded the session over the weekend. So it's up. I think you all should have gotten notice of that. So today, hold on there. There we go. Okay. First thing we're going to do is review the assignment and then just review some of the stuff we've gone over the last 2 weeks. And then we're going to talk about a fundamental rule, and that rule is in quotes of composition. So the assignment, just as a refresher, review the information on lines and either look for lines, and when you find them, incorporate them into a composition that draws attention to your subject, or find the subject and look for lines that draw attention to that subject. So the whole concept was to use lines to draw the viewer's eyes to the subject. Take 1 or 2 pictures and then send them to me. And I've got several. So without going any further, without saying anything more, let's go to the first one. And who's got this one?
This one's mine, Dina.
Okay, so tell us quickly about it.
This was, I think, waterfowl, and my friends were in town, and we were walking to the Quaker meeting house. I wanted to show them that. And I just saw this really pretty, leafed path, and let them walk ahead, and then shot them, in between the trees.
So tell us about the leading line, or the line.
Well, I think the path itself kind of does a line. Maybe it's one of those that's implied, I guess. And then
These right here.
Yeah, and then the trees, of course, and then they themselves are sort of vertical, along with the trees.
Okay, so I guess
And the path kind of leads, it's like leading somewhere. So I don't know.
Well, but I think here's your subject, right?
Yeah.
And it's difficult to see because of the black, the darkness of the clothing and the trees, but the path, these leading lines get you there, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So they really help. They really help promote the subject.
But you don't like the black and white. You think it's
no. I love black and white.
Oh, okay.
I'm a big fan of black and white. What I'm saying is that
brighter. Okay.
What I'm saying is that helps direct the eyes right to what your subject was.
Now I have another picture of this where they were closer to me. Do you think it'd be better if the subjects were bigger and closer?
No, I think this is great. I am
right.
not my point was that if it wasn't for those leading lines bringing you there, it may take you time to find them.
Well, also what's interesting is because I really like this path. I don't know if you've been to Threadhaven Quaker meeting, and I walk it a lot, and I've taken pictures of it without people, and it's not interesting at all.
Okay. All right, next one. I believe this is yours.
Yeah, I was just looking at some pictures of some hiking that I did, and didn't realize it, but I had caught that curve.
So does the curve help bring you to the subject? Does the curve help the viewer's eye get to where you want it to go?
If the 2 people at the end are enough for subject, it does.
That's up to you.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
The point is if you wanted us to get there, the lines are taking us there,
Yeah,
okay? That's the point of the exercise.
Right.
Yeah.
and it's
Okay.
kind of balanced. I like the way it was balanced because of the, of the landscape on the right.
Okay. The other thing I liked about both of them is that you did, what kind of a camera were you using on this one?
This is just an iPhone 8 Plus.
Okay, so you see the difference in it's a square format. The image is, as presented is a square format.
Right.
So I think what you didn't do is you didn't feel confined by the image that you took. You cropped it and changed the aspect ratio to get a better picture here and a better picture here.
Yes, because I think when it was probably first, 4x6 or whatever they normally would do, there was then too much of landscape to the right,
Okay, Good.
on this particular shot.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, next. Who's got this one?
That's mine.
Okay, Bill. So what lines do you want us to look at, and where are they taking?
So for me, I don't know whether the subject are those two smaller bushes at the end of the vegetated path or the people on the path, but all of the lines take you into the distance, whether it's the path or the railing.
Okay. So you have this here, here, here,
Yeah.
and
What
here.
what I don't like now that I'm looking at this is the skyscraper in the background.
Well, that's incidental. I mean, if nothing else, it's stopping you from wandering off the picture. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's an example here again. These people aren't very big. But to me, the lines got me there very quickly. It was a way of emphasizing your subject. It was a way of directing the viewer's eye to the subject.
So it's interesting, when I took this photo probably 2 years before the pandemic, I wasn't even thinking about people as the subject. I was thinking about the panorama, the scenery, if you will.
Okay. But what are those lines doing? Those are straight diagonal lines which create its motion, its tension, its movement. They're
Yep.
taking you down into the back of the picture.
Correct.
Okay. Next one.
So that one's also mine. And I really like the panoramic of this picture. There is the mountain in the back is what I was considering to be my subject, as well as the reflection in the water. And the lines don't take you to those two places.
Well, on a lot of landscapes, you may not have the lines to take you there.
Right.
But remember, there are lines here. Remember, horizontal line, peacefulness, rest, restful, peaceful, serene. Also to separate the horizon, the foreground and the distant horizon.
So I absolutely love this scene, but I didn't think of the horizontal line as the peaceful component at that time.
Okay. The point is that there are lines all over the place, and that will help you get to the subject or convey the feeling of the scene. There's no diagonal lines here. Is there any tension in the scene?
So I thought there was some I think the mountain sloping down from the top left to the center is a diagonal line.
Okay. But is it creating is it taking you into the scene?
It's taking you to nowhere.
Well, that's fine, because you don't want them to go any. What you described to us is that's your subject. You don't want them going anywhere, right?
Correct. I don't.
Yeah. If anything, this is taking. If you go wandering off here, this will bring you back. But that's your subject.
I'm sorry.
So-
What I couldn't see your cursor. What were you pointing to?
the hill here or mountain,
Okay, okay,
you know, if you wander off here, it'll hold you, bring you back. But the
okay,
bottom line is that with a subject like this, you don't need lines to take you there because you're there as soon as you see the image. But you have lines here, and this creates that feeling of peacefulness. Okay,
okay, thanks.
next one.
Yeah, this is mine, Norm, Jeff McGinnis.
Yeah, okay, Jeff, you're breaking up a little bit.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead. So go ahead,
Okay.
Jeff.
Yeah, this is part of a project that I'm working on, and the idea was to illustrate someone trying to escape from his present position and go as far away as possible. And so to me, all these lines were pointing that little tiny distance way in the back of it. And the idea that your eye takes you to a little place disappearing into the distance there.
Okay, so these are converging lines.
Yep,
They're straight. They take you pretty fast back there.
they do. They rip your eye back there.
And in this case, what's the horizon doing?
Well, I mean, it's like to me, it's like a barrier. I mean, you're going back, and then where you go from there, it's not clear. But
It's exactly right. From a two-dimensional perspective, you're going this way. You don't
Yeah.
keep going.
no,
So remember, one of the things that horizons do is they form barriers.
right?
I mean, horizontal lines.
Yeah, yeah.
So your intention, as you described it, is to get back here fast.
Mhm. Yes.
You do it.
No.
Good. Next one.
Okay. Well, this isn't straight lines. This is curved lines, and but the idea, this is in the Galapagos, late in the day on a rainy afternoon, and it just seemed like a primordial, scene of some kind, something prehistoric. And all these lines in the lava were, and the water on top of them, they gave it that separation that you may not have had on a sunny day. So, but it just, to me, it takes your eyes and gets you all mixed up in the lava, but then also pushes it back to the island behind it and that weird volcanic structure over there on the left.
Okay, so and this is open for discussion for everybody, folks. So here are the lines in the foreground of the lava. Is it a quick trip back there, or do you just kind of meander?
I meander. Because my eyes get tangled up in the lava, but eventually you get back there.
Okay, so remember, these curved lines, as opposed to straight lines, curved lines help you, they give you permission to meander and wander around and observe the roses, okay, so to speak. Okay, anybody have any questions on any of the pictures we've seen? Okay, next one. Who's got this one?
That was mine.
Okay, tell us about it, Mary. What's happening with lines here? What's going on?
Well, I have diagonal, I mean, you can see the beginning of the sort of chain, and then the people walking up, they're trying to, I mean, there's trails all the way up to the base of the mountain there.
Okay.
I just like the scene.
Okay, but what are the lines doing? Are these lines?
You're sort of, it's getting narrow and narrow, and it's taking you up along to the path.
Okay, so it's giving direction to the viewer's eyes.
Yes.
Okay. Next one.
And I guess that's kind of the same thing. I have people walking up to this monument, and so that's curvy lines, but also they're the sort of diagonal lines that are in the little, I guess it was a teepee, metal teepee.
Yeah. So, you know, I
So
think
the
what you're gonna,
Oh,
go ahead. Okay.
No, that's okay.
I think what you're going to find is that these lines that we've seen in other images so far, and we're going to see some more of, you know, the curved path, the converging curved lines are really common out there, particularly man-made structures, that they just call for some, you know, get a subject in there somehow and bring your eyes to it. So again, find the lines and see if it takes you to any subject is one of the ways of looking at things. Okay.
And the people were sort of also guiding
Oh, yeah,
the path and the people walking up.
absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, if that path wasn't there, but the people were, they kind of form, they would kind of form an imaginary line. So, okay. Who's got the next one?
That's mine, Bruce.
Okay, Bruce, tell us about it.
Well, the subject is the sailboat, rather dominant in the picture. The horizontal is the shoreline, tree line of the boat. To me, the dominant line is the mast. A diagonal is the forestay, or that creates a triangle. It's a local picture. It was a calm day, so there's not really much action in it. And given that the boat's moored, it's kind of a strong potency.
Okay. So do the lines add anything to the composition? Or are the lines, the dominant lines, part of the subject?
The latter, in my opinion.
Right.
I think, you know, if you kind of squint, the first thing you see is the vertical, the very clean vertical of the mast.
Okay. And in something like this, where the subject is so dominant, the lines may not matter because you know what the subject is, and you're going to, you know, you go there, your eyes go there, and you wander around a little bit, but you know what the subject is. Okay, who's got the next one?
That's mine.
Okay, Sarah.
And what I did was I lined up the boat with the sand fence, the farther sand fence, to sort of point to it. And then after I took the picture, I noticed that the verticals of the closer snow fence sort of also point up, take you up toward the boat.
Okay. Any comments?
I love the balance.
Yeah, balance is nice. You know, in terms of leading lines, I'm not sure how much the far fence is really leading to the boat, because of the boat is not in a direct line or close to the line with that fence. But it's a very, you know, the composition is interesting. And it goes to show that there are no rules in this thing. It's what works for you. Okay. Next one.
This one, the children are the line, their shadows are the lines. They're to the right of them, the boardwalk, this was in the Jersey Shore, the boardwalk is parallel to their motion, but up close, the boardwalk is at right angles to it.
So the diagonal lines of the children walking and the boardwalk, do they create a feeling of direction, tension, action?
Well, now that I look at it, it's the children's legs that really show what's going on, but that's reinforced by their shadows, I would guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, the lines, these lines are directing the eyes. Let's think about what the eyes are doing. And the shadows become lines and show where, you know, they've been here and they're, and oops, I'm having trouble with my mouse for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're going in this way. Okay?
Yep.
So again, they add tension and direction, in my opinion. Okay? And that's what you want in this picture.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have the hydrant in there doesn't stop the motion. Right?
Nothing stopped their motion, actually.
Yeah, but it's not their motion, it's what you captured.
That's right. I
Okay,
captured
so
the motion.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Next one.
That's me, Peggy.
Okay, Peggy.
Well, I didn't realize that a prerequisite for taking this class was to be a traveler. So
Yeah.
these are local, these are local photos. I walk on the trail in East End and with my dogs, and this just kind of caught my eye with the shadows, the fencing, and then my leads were crisscrossed, and it kind of, I just like the way the shadows kind of pointed to the dogs, and the line, the leads pointed to the dogs. And then also I kind of inverted it and said, well, it's actually pointing to me because I'm taking the picture. So.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, right here, these are coming here. So that they're diverging lines from this viewpoint, right?
Yes.
They're converging. If you're looking at it from over here, they're converging. But the dominance of the dogs, I think, keep you there. So these diagonal lines are taking you down the path. And I think, I went down the path, but I didn't stay down there because, these attracted me. So it's clear what the subject is. It's not the path.
Well, they're the beautiful dogs. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Next one.
That's me as well. That's local too. And I just liked the way there were lines all over the place. There were horizontal, vertical, curved, diagonals. And so I guess I don't exactly, the subject is really the bridge that has all those cool lines on it.
So what are the dominant lines here? What really get your attention? It's the curved, it's the converging curved lines. The lines there and the line there. And what it's doing is it takes you down the path.
Mm-hmm.
How many people were wandering, were looking over here, or even over here, or up here when you saw the picture?
Mm-hmm.
How many people were looking this way and saw the path? So yeah, these lines bring your focus and your eyes. So you're directing the viewer's eyes not to go here. You're directing the viewer's eyes to go here. Converging lines. Good. Next. Who's got this one?
That one's mine.
Okay, Margaret. Tell us about it.
It's actually a close-up. I was taking pictures going down my boat ramp, and I noticed the oyster shell sitting on the bulkhead, and it was sort of snuggled in the curve of the shadows of the tree that was behind me.
Okay.
We have the line of the bulkhead, but we also have the curved line of the shadows that sort of just encompass the oyster shell. And the lines, horizontal lines of the grass behind it.
Okay. So you do have lines here.
Yes.
In my mind, the dominant feature that brought me to this was something else to use in composition. That's called light. You have darkness, gray, and then you have a light, something much lighter, which attracts. But yeah, there are lines here that help get you there. Very nice. It's also yours, Margaret?
Yes, it is. And this was the first picture I took, actually, going down the boat ramp, towards the reflections of the trees on the other side of the creek. And I don't know if you can barely see the oyster shell on the bulkhead to the left that's underneath the cedar tree
here?
there. It's casting the shadow, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, if you were to tell me that was the subject here, I'd say, give me a break.
Yes.
But
Precisely.
But it's not the subject, right?
No.
So in this one, you have diagonal lines here that take you back here.
Mhm.
Okay, good. And this also this is a semi-vertical line. It's a leaning tree, but what it's doing is it's keeping you in here. All this is a framing elements to
Right.
keep you in there, and this takes you right back there fairly quickly. Again, straight lines get you through the images quickly, but straight diagonal lines in particular. Okay, who's got the next one?
Yeah, I'm losing it.
Okay, Mike, did you send something in?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My internet is going in and out right now.
No, I did not.
Okay, so whose is this? Okay, we'll see if we can come back to it. Otherwise, we got to keep moving. Okay, and whose is this? Mary? Okay, I think it's Mary's. Yeah, Mary has dropped out temporarily. Okay, here though, leading lines again. Leading line. You have this nice curved line. It's all bringing you back here. I think what you showed me, what you showed us, individually showed everybody, is the impact that leading lines have in an image and how easy it is to find them. And then using your feet, changing your point of view, it's it's easy to use them. So that's why I spent the whole last week focusing on lines. They're everywhere. Everybody found lines. They're everywhere. I'm sitting in a room now, and I see lines all over the place. Maybe not the greatest subjects, but I see lines. And if I wanted to, I could take out my camera and start working with them and maybe get good compositions, just with lines helping me. So keep that in mind. Okay, time for a quick review. The objectives from my perspective, we're going to get at the end to what you folks wanted to get out of it. Participants develop a broader foundation of visual composition through an understanding of the 4 compositional elements. That was week 1. To an understanding of one of the classic design elements, like line. And what we're going to talk about today through an understanding of whoops, someone say something? Okay. Through an understanding of basic compositional rules, again, rules in quotes, by evaluating and practicing these concepts, elements, and rules. So, what's composition? Process of arranging forms and tones in a way that is pleasing and that guides the viewer's eye to bring attention to your subject, or the artist's way of directing the viewer's vision in a planned, de-randomized fashion. In other words, it's not luck. You go out there and you think about what you want to do. And even going back to even the picture of the mountain, that's you wanted to take us to the mountain. That was the subject. And you managed to do that. There weren't any lines involved necessarily in getting us there, but it's a way that guides the viewer's eye to where you want it to go. Compositional elements you can't avoid: clearly defined subject and background, sense of balance, using a point of view to get what you want, and a degree of simplicity. Okay. 6 classic design elements: lines, shapes, forms, textures, color, and space. We just spent the time on one line, and you can see how much, you need courses on each one of these, really. And the lines help the viewer's eye navigate through your image, the most prevalent geometric form you will encounter, and it's one of the most interesting classic design elements to work with. And the first question to ask yourself: are there any lines in the picture I can work with? There are straight lines, which are horizontal, vertical, diagonal, and converging and diverging. There are curved lines. And again, not all lines convey the same meaning or feeling. And we've talked about that a little bit even today. And these 3, diagonal and converging, diverging, and curved lines, really help lead us through the image and get the viewer where you want them to go. Okay. So the next step, we talked about composition, what composition is, talked about how to draw attention to the subject. The next step, we're going to talk about where to put the subject. Okay. And I may get a little technical here with you. I'm going to ask you to please bear with me. So I'm not a wildlife photographer, but here's an image of wildlife. It happens to be a sea turtle in the Galapagos. It's in its natural habitat. Is it a pleasing image? I see people shaking. You can tell me no, it's okay. Why not?
Can only see half of it.
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit out of the frame, like it's too big.
And where the head should be the point of focus.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. But can everybody, do you see space here? There is some space at both ends.
A lot of space at the bottom.
A lot here and a lot there. I'm just checking to make sure that you're looking at the image that I'm showing, that it isn't cropped on your screen. Do you see some space
Motion.
here? Shake your head, yes, no, yes, no.
Yes, the motion of it suggests he's going to be out of the frame in no time at all.
Ah, okay. But it's a static picture, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not telling you anything, except
That's what I was gonna
it's
say.
a turtle.
It doesn't tell you a story.
Right. Okay, what about this one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different?
yeah.
No,
It
it
is
isn't. It's
action.
actually the same turtle.
Same turtle. but
Right.
Different
I-
story, though.
Aha, that's right. What the story being told is that turtle's going out to sea. It's going somewhere, but it's going out to sea. And it's more feeling of what's going on here. So you have a choice of placing the turtle here or a turtle here, right?
Right.
Okay, so we're going to get into now, you're going to see a blank screen, okay? Okay. Does anybody know what this is?
Fibonacci ratio.
Wow, Bill, you're good.
I'm a
Oh.
former math teacher.
You're a
Yeah.
math teacher, okay.
What is it? Say again.
Fibonacci. Okay. go ahead.
Ratio.
The golden ratio.
Yes.
Yes, it's the golden or divine ratio.
Ah,
And we're going to get into this in a lot of detail now, not scientifically or mathematically.
Oh,
but what it
please.
is, what's that?
Oh, please, let's do the math.
No, we're not going to do that. Okay, so it's the golden or divine ratio. And what it is, it's a mathematical constant called phi that appears actually repeatedly in nature and in art. And it really is considered almost as important as the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem, for those non-mathematicians or science-based folks is, A squared plus B squared equals C squared, which is the sides of a right triangle. But it's also called Fibonacci's ratio, whose series of numbers approaches the ratio. And I'm not
Right.
going to show you what the series of numbers is, but it's fascinating, and I'm going to show you why I believe it's fascinating. So, empirical studies show that humans, for some reason, subconsciously recognize it as an expression of all things perfection. Okay, this is not in the mathematical sense. This is in the aesthetic sense. And you can represent it visually by a rectangle or a spiral. Bear with me. This is the golden rectangle. So if this is 1 inch, this side would be 1.68 inches. If this is 100 inches, this is 100 miles, this is 1,618 miles. But it's the ratio of this side, the length of this side to the length of that side. Okay? You don't have to remember this, just giving you the background. And there's no test afterwards. So from the golden ratio, you can derive the golden spiral. So here's the golden ratio I was showing you. Okay? So if you take it and you divide it so that you make a square, lo and behold, this is the square, but then you have another golden ratio, golden rectangle. You take this one and divide it so that you have a square up here, like put that line in there. Oh my God, there's another one here. You keep doing this over and over again. And if you draw a curved line from this corner so that it hits this corner perpendicular and hits that corner and keeps going around, this is how you get to the golden spiral. Okay? That's all you need to know about the math for now. Okay? So that's how it's developed. But let's take a look at it in nature. You see the shell? Can you see the
Yes.
spiral imposed on it?
Beautiful.
That's the golden spiral. Same with this one. It's not, it forms that natural curve. Okay, let's take a look at it in art. How's that?
Wow.
Wow is right. When I saw this, it blew my mind. The golden spiral, whether it was known or not when this was done, impacted the image. Take a look at this one. You got two of them.
Whew.
Okay, let's take a look at it in, of all things, advertising. Look at that.
Huh. It's amazing.
It is. You take a look at this. You see the natural curve of the water? That is the golden spiral. Again, just in photography. You see that? Way off to the side here. And we're going to get into how to do that and why in a couple of minutes. But you see that? It's just it's a natural phenomenon.
Hmm.
Speaking of natural phenomenons, when you look at a hurricane,
Gee.
now not all of them are. Some of them are much more compact. But look at the spiral. Look at the spiral. Architecture.
Wow.
Okay, same thing here. Now the lines are not parallel because of the way the picture was taken, looking up. But if you can take this picture looking straight on, there's your golden rectangle.
Hmm.
How's that one? Okay, this has been around for a long time. In fact, take a look at the Parthenon. Anybody know when the Parthenon was built? 447 BC. And if you blew up the picture of it and looked at it, all this work here is approximates the golden ratio. Fibonacci was born in 1175 AD, developed the ratio, but it's been in use for a long time. Okay, this is actually foundation for a very important concept. I'm going to call it a concept. People call it a rule. I'm going to call it a concept in photography. So the real question is, so what? What does this have to do with the time of day, right? And the answer is actually it has a lot, a heck of a lot. It provides us a tool to help with subject placement. Okay? So you don't need to understand the math. You just need to understand that there's logic and there's something going on up here in people's minds behind it. And that's why we use it. Okay. So it comes about with, when we talk about image placement, we need to think about where to place the image. And as you saw in my first picture of the tortoise, the sea turtle, the natural impulse is to place the subject in the center. I mean, think back when you first picked up any camera, an iPhone, a Brownie. Where'd you put the subject? Smack dab in the middle. Okay, that's all right. It's a snapshot. That's fine. However, centered images, as you pointed out with the first image, tend to be static. The eyes don't explore anything. They just stay there. It's not really that interesting. So how do we use the golden ratio to help with composition? Well, let's start with the rectangle.
Thank you.
Okay. So the first step is to simplify a grid.
She's also 2, or am I getting a different?
9 years old?
Yeah.
Mike,
No, she doesn't.
Mike,
Okay, feels like
Yes,
Mike, can you go on mute, please?
sure, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Okay. So if we divide the golden ratio like this into a third from the edge, okay? And then let's take it in a third from the other edge and a third from the top and a third from the bottom. And we divide this into the golden, so we divided the golden ratio rectangle into a grid. And really, if you look at this thing, it's almost the rule of thirds. Now, we're not physicists, we're not mathematicians. When we're looking at a viewfinder or the back of the camera or the phone, the screen, it's hard to imagine this thing. So what we need to do is we need to get the golden rectangle to the rule of thirds. It's the basis of the rule of thirds. So we do that by moving some lines. Take the 2 vertical lines, move them out a little bit so that these are now equidistant, right? Do the same thing down here so that these are the same size. And what you have is you have the rule of thirds, you have the golden rectangle here, and you have the rule of thirds. So the rule of thirds, the whole point of this exercise is the rule of thirds is important. It's not absolute, but it is important because it helps us. This is how we think. Okay, there are people that disagree with this theory, and they've done research to try to disprove it. The bottom line is, for the most part, it seems to work. Okay. Okay. So what is the rule of thirds? So if you think of that grid I just showed you, this one, think of the lines and the intersecting points. Whoops, hold on. Okay. So if you place elements along one of the lines in the grid or at one of the points of intersection of the lines in the grid, It has the potential to make the composition more interesting. What the grid does, it directs us to dynamically evaluate the elements in a frame. Elements placed at the center may be perfectly balanced, but they're static. Our eyes, given the opportunity, and you give us elements on those lines or at the intersection points, it looks at the rest of the image and see what's there. And we can create more interesting images by seeing what we can put there to help balance it. Okay? Basically, the grid asks us, doesn't demand, we do what we want, but it asks us to think about composition. Okay? And if I don't mention it at the end of this, someone remind me, just say the word television, and I want to come back to a point. Okay? Any questions on this? You with me so far?
Yep.
Okay. Caution, this is not absolute. The rule of thirds or the golden rectangle or the spiral, it's nothing more than a tool. It's a starting point to consider as we examine placing the elements in the frame. You can and should be, it can and should be used as a reminder of how our eyes travel and what attracts us. So again, let's come back to my friend. This is the first image. This is the second image. Now, why in the world would I put the turtle there? Well, it helps give some direction what's going on. But if I superimpose on this, the rule of thirds, look where the turtle is. Okay. Is there anything else needed in the frame to tell a story? There's balance here with this, but it made it such a much of a stronger composition by just putting the turtle down there. And it turns out it's the rule of thirds. Okay?
Huh.
Subject placement. You remember this one? I'm going to show you two slightly different views of the picture you've seen before. You've seen this one. Okay? And there's that one. Okay. This one. Which is more pleasing to you? The first one or the second one?
Second.
Second.
Really? Son of a gun. Look what happens when I put the rule of thirds on there.
Huh.
I have to tell you that probably 95% of the time when I show them, people say it's the one on the right. But the rule of thirds just does something to your mind, makes it a little stronger. Okay? Okay, well, I was walking along and saw a door to a basement and a hinge on it. And I was attracted to, you know, some of the contrast here and all that kind of stuff. So tell me what you think of this placement, this composition. Beautiful, balance. Can't balance it anymore. It's stagnant. Come on, speak up. I have a relatively thick skin. Look what happens when I move it. And put the rule of thirds on. Without, you know, is that a stronger composition? I'm also getting more what I wanted in here. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just didn't think it was as nice as the first one, as simplified and pretty as the first.
Okay. So I think the point you're raising is, so what if it's stagnant? You like it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
We're dealing, photography is art. We're dealing with art. Art is extremely subjective. Okay? And this is a key point. Some people would like that better. It is simple.
Well,
Okay.
the second image with the hinge actually gives you an idea that it actually could work and be a hinge and have movement. The first one looks like it's pasted on there. and it's not gonna move.
So it's
That's
telling
what's-
more of it's telling more of a story.
And
I'm
and
in
I wonder how it would change if neither one of them had the light shining through. Because on
You
the
mean-
second one, I see the light from the leaf reflection or the shadow drawing
Yeah.
me up there rather than to the hinge.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Good
Very
point.
different subject in the second picture. It doesn't
Remember,
seem
I-
like the hinge is the subject as much as the light.
Okay, and remember what I said drew me to this was the contrast in the light. So, yeah.
Huh.
So again, it depends what you want to show.
Huh.
And again, this is, the rule of thirds is, it just says, take a look at this. See if you can do something with it. And if you like this better, stay with it. Okay?
Yes.
There's no easy answers in this, folks. Okay. Centered image. Peaceful, rough terrain, stormy. Okay. Here's the one that, now this is cropped. This to me tells much more of a story of what I was seeing there. Different feeling?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Look at the rule of thirds. Now, when I took this, I looked at this and I was interested in all of it. And I thought there was enough balance there with the sky. Some people would say, this is great. That's fine. Okay. My choice is this, and the rule of thirds tells you where to put that. If you don't come in, and sometimes it'll come naturally to you. Sometimes you need to think about it. Okay. So what's the subject here?
The boat.
Is it static?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I get the feeling that there's motion there because the boat is moving and you see the wave, but the image of the boat is static. Okay. Let's take another, this is a different picture, but now what do you think?
There's
It's moving.
motion.
And,
It
and
does
where to
seem
put,
like-
go ahead.
No, it sounds like the particular intersection you choose helps define the direction that you're going to take yourself with, right? Because you have the
Right.
lines of the boat taking you to the top left-hand corner, so to speak.
Yeah. It's going this way.
Yeah.
Right. And if you take a look at where that boat is. Okay. Okay, got a couple more here. Hang in there. So okay, is the subject, it's a centered subject, but is it static?
No.
Yes.
Okay, who said no? Okay, I'll say no, because of the, she's doing something. She's looking off to the side. It creates some, something going on there. But yeah, it's a static image, it's centered. But when you take a look at it, now what kind of a feeling do you get out of this? It's the same picture, by the way, of her.
Wow.
You get an
Wow.
entirely different feeling when you don't center the subject.
Absolutely. Huh.
Look at that. Okay.
Wow.
Again, where to place it.
Huh.
Okay. So I was sitting on a bench. And
I'm sorry, can we go back to that last photo?
Sure.
I'm sorry to be pain here, but this rule of thirds is not really a rule. And I'm having a math crisis here because I can see a third, but it's really not in any one of the third sections. It's overlapping into three different sections.
Remember what I said, if you place the subject either on one of the lines
Okay,
or at the intersection.
I got it. Thank you.
But if I put the rule of thirds on this one, she'd be in the center one.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
don't
thank
want,
you.
you don't want the subject in the in that section. You
Got
want,
it.
you want to be guided by the lines and approximately.
Yeah, no,
Obviously,
I get it's
obviously-
approximate. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you.
obviously it would be better if she was a little closer to this line. In terms of the rule of thirds, I don't think it would make any difference in the picture.
Cool.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
Okay, good. Good question, though. Good question. Okay, so I'm sitting on a bench, looking across the street, and I'm just waiting for something to happen. And there are leading lines here. You got these leading lines. There are lines here, and there are lines here. And finally, something happens. You got 3 people walking, and this person here. Okay. Then another picture comes along. 4 different people going the other way. So there are leading lines here. Do any of them, you know, what do any of them help define what the subject is?
No, not really.
Okay. Does the rule of thirds define what the subject might be?
I
Yes.
think so.
I don't think so.
The rule of thirds, and every time I say rule, it's close. Says, okay, that would probably be the subject, but when you saw it without it, it doesn't work all the time. Okay? And the bottom line here is there's no picture to take
Yeah,
between these two.
exactly.
I can't make an interesting picture out of this. Now, if I stayed there long enough and something else happened, maybe I could have. But with these 2 images, there's nothing going on there. It's a nice
Especially with trash
snapshot.
cans,
What's that?
especially with the trash cans.
Yeah, well, you know, yeah. Well, don't forget there's a recycle can here too. So
And you got a FedEx box.
you got a FedEx box. They're all over.
Oh,
So the bottom line is, you know, and there's nothing wrong with snapshots if that's what you want. Okay. But in terms of better composition, there's nothing here. That's okay. Okay. So male and female sea lions in the Galapagos. There's nothing nearby. The next closest group of sea lions about 25 feet away. Is this a static picture?
yes.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. So we have 2 opinions.
Yeah, I don't think it's static. I mean, because of the two sea lions, you get some sort of feeling between them.
Feels like they're interacting with one another.
And the male is screaming at the female what's going on.
Hmm.
There's tension right here. There's a you know, kind of a diagonal line here between the 2.
Oh, yeah.
And I can see where you would think it's static, but I think that there is some dynamic thing going on here.
Yeah.
Because of that, and the relationship of the sizes. But it is a fairly, compared to the sea turtle, it's a static picture. Let's take a look at the
Thing
rule
is,
of
if
thirds.
you,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I mean, if you had cropped this or you were able to move it to one of those intersections, I'm not so sure it would work as well as the way you have it.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's how I felt. And in fact, you know, whoops. So here is you know, the female is on the line and right at the intersection, but it really doesn't help the image because it's such a dominant image in the center right here, and particularly the size. So, you know, it depends. You know, someone asks me, "What do you think? You know, is this right?" And I say, "It depends. It depends what you want, and it depends how you feel about it." Okay, next one. So the left image is centered, right one's not. Which is more appealing to you?
Right.
The right
Right.
one.
One on the right.
Anyone want to guess where the rule of thirds would say that that's going to wind up?
It's probably going to line up.
3 o'clock.
It's
Whoops,
right, it's right on that line.
huh,
You know, with a lot of these images, I put them in some, you know, in this arrangement, and then put the rule of thirds on. It was just, you know, it becomes, after a while, when you start thinking about it this way, you see it this way, and it becomes the way you shoot, or you may not shoot that way, but you may you know, post process by cropping, put it there. Okay, next one. What's the subject?
Tree.
The tree.
Tree.
Okay.
I think the light
Okay.
coming through the tree, clouds.
Okay. So is the light coming, is that the subject, or is that helping you bring you here?
Well, that's where my eyes went.
Ah, oh, you, okay, your eyes went up here. Okay, good. Okay. Did it bring you down here by any chance?
Yeah.
yes, yes.
There's
Okay.
the rule of thirds. Okay. So, you know, and I'm gonna talk about where to place the horizon in this kind of a concept in a couple of minutes, but in fact, it's coming up next. So, okay. Any questions on what the rule, you know, how the rule of thirds help and help
Could you,
think?
Norm, could you explain what we're looking at right now? So the tree is in the intersection of the bottom thirds there.
Yeah.
So what point are you making there?
Everybody said the subject was a tree, or a lot of people, not everybody. I think the
Okay.
dominant feeling was that the subject was a tree, and if you look at the thirds, look where it is. That may have had some impact on people thinking that that's the subject.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I also think the clouds, even though they don't directly point to the tree, are on a diagonal path towards the tree.
Yeah.
So the two in combination kind of make it pop out.
Yeah. Yeah. To my way of thinking, this brought me here, and these kind of brought me in the general vicinity of the tree.
Right. Right.
Right.
Hey, Norm, hey, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hey, Norm.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Jeff. Hey, I just sent you an email. Can you pull it up with an image? I took that shot of the Denton field and applied your rule of the thirds to it. And it
Okay.
looks to me, I don't know if you can show it, but to me it looks a heck of a lot more interesting than what I turned in at the beginning of this class.
Okay. So let's come back. So this is a learning exercise. So hang on a minute.
I could just, you know, if I put the path is now on a 1/3 line, the horizon is on another 1/3 line, and the design is like 10,000 times better. It just
Okay,
is a
good.
much more pleasing image. And I've been fiddling with this for months, and I said it just didn't seem quite right. And bingo, thank you very much.
Good. Okay. Hang on. I got to get back to,
All right, I'm sorry I screwed things up, guys, but
well, I don't know if you did or not. We'll see.
That was great.
Hang on a minute. Okay. Can you all see this now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. That wasn't too bad. Sorry about that. All right. The question is, where do you place the horizon line? And that depends on what you want to what you want to emphasize. If the sky is interesting, you place the horizon low in the frame so that the sky has more real estate. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm hearing an echo of me. Okay. All right. If the foreground is more interesting, you place the horizon high in the frame. Okay. You don't put it in the dead center of your frame unless it works. As always, there's always a caveat. So there's no absolute rule. Okay. So the rule of thirds can help you with this. Let's take a look at this picture. And let's superimpose the rule of thirds on it. I thought the sky was interesting. I thought there's really nothing going on here. It's the sky that was interesting, and it's more, to me, was more of the subject. So you can see where I place it, just about on this lower line of the rule of thirds. Okay,
Super. Mm,
what about this one? What's more interesting?
the fields
Yeah.
or whatever they are.
Sand dunes.
Sand dunes.
Look at that. Okay,
Yeah.
Wow.
it works to a large extent. Okay, so this is a picture of a boat on a lake up in Canada. I could have photographed more of the beach, which would have moved the horizon up. But to me, the sand, there's nothing interesting in the sand right here. So I thought the sky was more interesting and counterbalanced the boat. That was my thinking. There's my horizon.
Beautiful.
Okay. But you see, it's not in the center because the sky has some interest to it.
Hmm.
So what are the elements in this picture? This is all from the Galapagos. I was there during the dry season, no rain. You have a horizontal line here, a horizontal line there. You have this cactus. Anybody drawn to the cactus immediately? Okay to
No.
say yes or no.
No,
No,
no.
Okay. So to me, there's more interest in the foreground. So if I put the rule of thirds on there, that's where I wound up putting this divider, this barrier up here because I wanted more interest here. And I actually did put that cactus on one of the rules of thirds. The problem with this image, in terms of this being the primary, the subject, is too much going on here, too distracting. Okay. Next one. Oh my God, the horizon is centered. Is the image
But
static?
Yeah, but it works because you have those
Well,
strong diagonal lines.
Right. These lines, the diagonal lines, create tension. And here, the reflections of it. And they converge right over there. So, your eyes, there's movement, your eyes are moved by some of the elements in the picture. So here's an example where the horizon is in the middle, but the image still works. And from my perspective, if I cropped this so that the horizon was here, the bottom of the image was here, so the horizon was in the bottom third, I think you're losing some of the impact of the image. So, and here it is. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, had you tried placing the focal point on one of the third lines on the right instead of it being closer to the center?
Well, yeah. Then what happens is these become, you're only going to have that in there, just this in there, if you move it over a little bit. And then that clump starts becoming, what is that? As opposed to seeing it more. Yeah, I mean, it's something to try. And if I was better in Photoshop, I could take those out. But this is the composition I wound up with. And again, someone else could take this picture and do something entirely different with it. And that's fine, as long as they don't claim it's my picture. Okay. It's theirs. It's their picture. Okay. So again, take a look at this one. You've seen this one before. There are two horizons. Why did I place this one here?
Giving equal weight to the sky in the foreground.
And this has to have some weight in there too. Right? If you take a look at where I put it, I couldn't move the trees to get, I got them close,
Yep.
close there, but I couldn't put them there. So, you know, that's what I was thinking when I processed the picture, where to put them. And actually, this is basically how I took it with more foreground. But it wasn't interesting. I cropped it out. Okay.
But Norm,
Yes.
on this one, if you brought the left-hand margin in, it would slide the line over right along that ditch. And wouldn't that make it more balanced?
It might. Well, I don't think we'll make it more balanced. I think there's
Or more
balance now. The
more
question
interest- or
is,
less
would it?
static.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it might. But then you got the trees here, and there's zilch up here.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
start to feel like I'm leaning a little bit looking
Right.
at the picture.
Right.
Again, this is my thought process. Okay, you've seen this one before.
Mm.
So where do your eyes go?
To the top of the steps.
First.
Does this help? Does the rule of thirds help?
Wow.
Not at all.
Not really.
Yeah.
Uh.
So again, the rule of thirds is not a rule. It helps you analyze what's going on in the picture.
So when you say it doesn't help, what do you mean?
Well, to me, using the rule of thirds, I superimpose, what would I place here that would help with the composition of the picture to get to my subject? I want to get up the stairs.
Oh, okay.
Nothing would help. The stairs themselves do it. And you have the flower pots do it. And the stone hand railing guide you up there. Rule of thirds doesn't do anything, in my mind, for this picture. Okay? So again, but I love the picture.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to meet the rule of thirds to be a picture you love. No one else may love it, but if you love it, that's what counts. Okay. So this is a head-on shot of a baby Galapagos hawk. I'm standing about 5 feet from him. There's nothing on either side of the hawk. And the action's behind me. I'm standing between him and an albatross nest with some chicks and other albatrosses around to protect the chicks. It's obvious I'm in the way. And he's staring straight at me. So, is this dynamic? Is this static?
Yeah. Yes.
I think it's a
Which
little
one?
dynamic.
Did you say it's a little dynamic, Mike?
Yeah, only in the sense that he's staring at you, you know, and so you have that feeling of, okay, what's he thinking?
Yeah, I definitely had that feeling. What's he thinking? You know, he was still probably about 1.5 feet tall.
Oh,
You know, this looks like it's centered. And yeah, you look at those eyes are staring at you, and that alone, the subject creates the tension.
If you were to zoom in on that head, then your eyes get there immediately instead of taking time to get there. Because man, once you see those eyes, whoa.
Now, let me tell you something. There's the rule of thirds.
Yeah.
His head's right on that line.
Yeah.
So it's either
Yeah.
the mind interpreting the rule of thirds and taking it to the head, or the subject and the eyes. But something gets you there. Okay? And I don't think there's anything else that needs balance in the image.
I think the slant of the eyes also brings you up there too.
Yeah.
You know, you got those diagonal lines to the beak, and it's like you're drawn to that.
Yeah. It's so, you know, yeah, the rule of thirds applies maybe, but it's the subject that really catches your attention. You know, you see that and you wind up, in my mind, fairly quickly at the head. So, okay, next one. So, rule of thirds?
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Spades.
Mm.
No question about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take a look at these next. There's two similar landscapes. They're not identical. So, does the rule of thirds help? If you saw these, does the rule of thirds help you in any way? Analyze this?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the one on the left, more so, I think, even than the right.
Okay, how?
Well, I mean, it's not perfect, but if you divide it in thirds, your eye goes to that top left-hand intersection, and you've got the foreground and the horizon kind of splitting it in thirds as well.
Okay,
Plus, you got motion in that, more motion in the first one, and on the one on the right, the tree kind of distracts, I think.
So here's
Okay.
what the tree on the right did for me on the photo on the right. What the tree did for me was that my eyes went immediately to the tree, and then I followed the lines into the distance.
Mhm.
right. Let's take a look at the rule of thirds on both of them. So what you have here in both of them, you have diagonal lines, converging diagonals, taking you out, curved, whatever, taking you out. So you go that way in both. But with this one, you got this tree starting you, really grabbing your attention. Balances this. If you look at this, yes, it takes you there. Is there any balance here? Because, when I took this picture, I was looking for balance. So is there balance here? There's some balance.
There's balance and weight.
Perceptual weight. As there is perceptual balance, right?
Mhm.
Two different pictures, both will work. It depends what you like. But you can see the rule of thirds, in this one, I saw this and I said, I was standing over here someplace, looking this way. And there was no interest in the foreground. And I felt there might be some interest in the foreground. So I moved. So I got something in the foreground. Changing the point of view, going back to the first one, but using the rule of thirds of where to put whatever I found.
Norm,
Yes.
when you shoot in your camera, do you have in your viewfinder this rule of, these lines?
No, I don't.
Okay.
The question is, can I?
Yeah, I know you can, but why?
I'm not sure I can.
Why don't you?
Because I don't think I can. I'm shooting with a 9-year-old Nikon.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think I can. I never explored it, but I don't think I know in the later versions of my camera you can. I don't think you can in mine.
Oh, gotcha.
So I'm visualizing.
If you could, would you?
Possibly.
I do. I do
Okay.
with my iPhone all the time. It does help.
Yeah.
No.
The issue becomes: do you want to be driven by that or guided by that?
Wow.
And if you can have it in the viewfinder and be guided by it, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. If you have it in the viewfinder because it's going to drive you to do things, step back and think about it.
It just makes me take it both ways. So if I have that on, it'll remind me to look to see if I could get something in the intersection. If it's good, I take it. If I don't, I ignore it. But it reminds me.
Okay, good. Okay.
It's also in the cropping tool. So, my pictures are hardly ever horizontal, I always have to adjust it a little bit. And when you get in there, if you crop it, it'll have those grids as well.
Okay. Let's do one more. And then I want to come back and make a comment about TV. So you saw this one. Some of you felt the subject was the yellow door. Both are on intersections and lines. So, I don't know what it is. It's confusing. So this is one of those shots where you choose the subject. It doesn't matter. It's what's pleasing to you. Okay. Now, okay, we're just about out of time. I was going to go through some exercises. I think we've been doing that now. And you can look at the exercises when I send the slides out. But I want to ask you to think about something. When you're watching television, particularly, I don't know if it's particularly, but British dramas, and you see how they set up the images on the screen. Now think about the rule of thirds and think if they're using them. I was amazed when I started doing that in terms of movies, TV shows, when they're setting up the shot, how often they use the rule of thirds. Never occurred to me until I put together this course. They do. They use it. It's amazing. Okay, so I'm going to go. Let me go to the back end of this because I'm basically out of time. Whoops, hang on.
Ooh.
Okay. So, in summary, you need to be aware of the 4 compositional concepts: subject and background, sense of balance, point of view, elements of simplicity. See if there's design elements you can use to draw your viewer's attention to your subject. Rule of thirds helps analyze the subject, placement, and other elements in the image, but most importantly, there's no absolute. The only absolute in photography is no light, no picture. That's absolute. Everything else is guidance. I'm hearing some feedback again. I also want to come back to your expectations that you expressed at the beginning of the class. You wanted to get better at what you're doing. You wanted to learn new tricks of the trade, learn how to use equipment, become more creative in terms of composition, and create more interesting images. So my question to you is, did I meet this going through the course? I know we didn't talk about how to use your equipment. You're all using different equipment, and there's no way in 3 hours or whatever, 4.5 hours, I could cover everybody's equipment and everything else. So I'm sorry about that, but we did not, I know we did not meet that. Are you okay with everything else? Were your expectations met?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
Can you do part 2?
Well, hang on a minute. Okay, one last thought. And I talked about this a little bit earlier today. Don't be confined by the aspect ratio of your camera. When you're out there taking a picture, you're forced to take whatever that aspect ratio is. And it depends on the camera system you're using. It could be 1 to 1.5. It could be 4/3. I don't know what, I don't remember what the iPhone is. You take the picture, but if you have the ability and the desire and the software, and just about all software has it, crop the picture to show what you feel is important. Take out the stuff that's not. We talked about that in some of the images we saw today. One was very, the black and white was horizontal. It was cropped quite a bit because I'm guessing the rest, everything that was cropped out didn't add to the image. So think about what your intent is, and does all that add to the image? And get rid of it, okay? Let the art of the composition determine the aspect ratio, what's important. There's one major issue with it, with this, folks. Just be aware that if you make prints and give them to people to frame, the cost of framing goes up significantly, because then you're looking at custom prints. That's the downside of it. But in terms of pictures you like, don't be confined by your aspect ratio. Any other questions that I haven't covered?
Oh.
Coming back to where's the next one? I have to work on it.
Well, thank you.
Good answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks so much.
Yes.
And if you
thank
have any questions, you know how to get in touch with me, and I'll be sending these out to you as well. Okay?
Thanks for everything.
Great.
Thank-
Thanks very much,
And-
Norm.
And
Happy
thank you
holidays.
thank you all for really making this work in Zoom. To me, it was a challenge, but thank you. Take care. Enjoy the holidays, folks.
Have a nice
Bye-bye.
holiday. Bye-bye.
Thank you.